Good afternoon. You're listening to the Thought Bowl. And this is Pete, and I do believe we'll have Heather calling in a minute or two. And today our guest is Katie. She'll be calling in around 3:15, and we're going to be talking about her small business revolving around plants, plant care. A lot of people go on vacation, need their plants attended to. So one of the services her business offers. So we're going to talk about plants. We're going to talk about what type of music plants like. And we're going to talk about her experience in the land of roller derby, among many other things. And she gave me some songs to play, some songs that are great to play for plants. So, let's kick off one of those songs now. So we have I See You by Phoebe Bridges. That was Phoebe Bridges with I See You. And you're listening to The Thought Bowl. Today, in a few minutes, we're going to have our guest, Katie, call in, talk about roller derby, talk about plant care. Might even fit a second or two to talk about pinball. That's how I met Katie, through the extended DMV pinball world. Really how I meet most people. 90% of the guests I've brought on this show have been via the fabulous world of pinball in the DMV area. And we lost an important member of the pinball community, Lyman Sheets. He was a designer, all-around good guy, recently passed away. Designed many popular machines, Iron Man, Elvira, Monster Mash, if you're a pinball player. So, a rough week for losing a lot of people. Louis Anderson, Meatloaf. I was watching Fight Club last night and totally forgot that Meatloaf is also in Fight Club. Most people know him from his appearance in a Rocky Horror Picture Show or one of his many long, epic music videos. And Louis Anderson, might remember from the show Baskets. Did a fabulous job. Won some Emmys there, too. And the Red Cross is experiencing serious blood shortages. Dangerously low blood levels are forcing some area hospitals to defer major surgery. You can donate blood at Red Cross centers in Silver Spring, Rockville, and downtown D.C. at redcross.org. You can type in your zip code and make an appointment at the blood donation center nearest you. It's a public service message from WOWD Takoma Radio. So even if you're not in the Takoma Park area or the DMV area, you can find your local Red Cross wherever you are. And you're listening to The Thought Bowl, and I do believe on the phone we have Katie. Are you there, Katie?
Yeah, hey. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. How you doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's pretty cold out, but outside of that, doing pretty good. So, so this is the first segment I like to call the superhero origin story, because most people in the DMV area don't originate from here. They kind of came here through some process. So where were you born, and kind of give us a journey to you being in the DMV area now?
So I was born in Northern Virginia, so kind of a rarity in that I am from here, but I'm the only one of my family that's from this area. My dad was in the Army, and so my whole family, my mom and him and my brother are from Florida, came up here, had me, so I'm the Northern Virginia branch, I guess. And we moved around a little bit. I lived in Greece when I was a kid, came back here, and then eventually, the suburbs just didn't have enough kind of for me, and so I moved into D.C. A few years ago. I've been here since maybe 2015, a little bit of moving back and forth, and I've been back here about the past 2 years. moved back late 2019, so like right before things shut down. But that kind of was really nice because I got to learn the city in like a new way. Just a lot of like biking around and getting in touch with like the outdoor areas of the town. So that was pretty cool.
So, your time in Greece, did you pick up the language at all?
Not really. I have a few words here and there, a couple of swears.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same way. I know a lot of curse words in a lot of different languages. So
they're the easiest ones for some reason. Because I think swearing is universal.
Right.
But yeah, no, I won't say those on the radio for as to not offend any Greek-speaking listeners. But I picked up like a little bit of stuff, but really nothing that like could serve me well. Like like yasu, tikanate, like stuff like that. Like enough to say hi to dupe people into thinking that I might be able to talk to them, and then if they continue, they'd be like, "You what? Like this didn't go anywhere."
Right. So if you went into a Greek restaurant, could you hook yourself up with some extra food by maybe saying the few Greek words that you know?
Probably not. I would imagine just like repeating like moussaka over and over, and they just keep bringing it and bringing it. And I'd be like, this is great.
So one of your many journeys was New Jersey, correct? Stops, and you played roller derby there. So I'm fascinated with roller derby. I'm a giant fan. When I lived in Hagerstown, I went to, they had a squad or whatever. I went to a lot of matches. So how did you get into roller derby, and do you still do it now?
No, so yeah, that was kind of the thing about coming back to DC in late 2019 was like, it, really threw things up into the air. I kind of have like a penchant for getting into like very physical activities. So I feel like people have suggested roller derby to me for a while, and I was like, nah, like it seemed, I don't know, maybe like a little on the nose. And eventually it was actually, there was like a women's conference in New Jersey in Asbury Park that I went to. And one of the vendors there was the Jersey Shore Roller Girls. And I met, I can't remember her name now, but I met one of the women on the team, and she was just like so lively and easy to talk to and so fun and really engaging. And then so it finally like, I was like, okay, we'll go try it out. And then I tried it out, and it was just the coolest group of people, and they were so supportive. And it was like a really good comprehensive training to start out with, because you have to go through certain levels before you can like pass to actually play, to make sure that you're safe and everything. And for being such like a physical sport, and one that, involves a lot of like contact and bruises and stuff, they make sure that you know how to do stuff like fall and how to hit right, and like the right body parts to hit and be hit with, like, so that you don't get in any trouble, and try not to hurt yourself. Eventually I did break my ankle pretty bad, but that's kind of what took me out of it. And then when I came back to DC, I went to a DC Roller Girls meetup before the season started. But yeah, it was mostly the pandemic that kind of took that down. But from time to time, I know that like roller skating got really trendy in 2020, and I had like a good 2 sets of skates, my fun hot pink leopard print Moxies that are just like the cute, like out and about trail skating skates. And then there's the short boot ones that are meant for flat track and skating really fast. And it's so much fun. And it really was just like, the people are so cool. They're all really, and at least my team too, like everyone was really in it for the team too. Like everyone was there to play together and work together. And then individually, like there's so many cool characteristics and stuff, but a lot of overlap in interest. So it just became like a very easy thing to get into. It was like, okay, this is never not going to be fun. So
Did you have a cool nickname?
my derby name was Snack. Well, it was Snack Attack, but it was Snacks for short. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
yeah,
cool.
there are a lot of food-based names in derby.
Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, there's kind of two different positions. One position, someone is kind of throwing someone, and the other position is you're kind of getting thrown. I'm probably oversimplifying the process, but so where were you? Were you the person getting thrown, or were you the thrower?
So there are blockers, pivots, and then like the person who actually goes around the track.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a pivot is like you can kind of do the other two jobs. So you basically like you have a pack of blockers, and what they're trying to do is prevent the other team's. I don't know why I can't think of the name of that position. I feel like people that play roller derby at home are like screaming it, and they're like, "It's not," and I'm like, it'll come to me in a second, I'm sure, throughout this conversation. But hold on just a second. Yes, jamming. Okay, sorry.
Jamming.
It escaped me. It was bothering me so much. So yeah, you can be a jammer, you can be a pivot, or you can be a blocker. And being a pivot is being someone who can really either jam, which is being the one that skates around the track for your team, or you can be a blocker, the person that is preventing the other team's jammer from skating around the track. And like the basic goal is that you want to get as many laps around the track in a 2-minute jam as you possibly can for your team. That's how you get points.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you're pivot, that just means that, like, so the jammer, they're usually it's like a very small person that skates around and there are, like, some professional players that are amazing. They can, like, there's this one called Pika Zoom, and her thing is that she's so tiny and so petite and so fast, and she'll just, like, string down really small on her skates and, like, ride right under somebody's legs to get through them. And she'll, like, you'll see her, like, skate into a wall of people and then just is suddenly on the other side.
Wow.
And, but if you ever, like, if you're a jammer, like, if you were her and then you got stuck in that pack or something, you have to wear a thing on your helmet. They call it a panty. And you take it off and you can give it to a designated person in the pack that can then continue the jam and keep skating around in a circle, and you can just keep passing it back and forth to one another. And I was kind of like, I could kind of do both pretty well because I'm not like super petite, but I'm kind of big enough and like a good size and like strength level to be a blocker. So yeah, I was sort of like, if they needed a jammer, like I could step up to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was describing you like before I knew you to Derek, and I was like, he wasn't really getting who I was describing. I was like, she kind of looks like she might do roller derby. And Derek was like, oh, I know who you're talking about. She actually did. I was like, oh, okay. I kind of picked that out from.
That's so funny.
And could you survive playing roller derby if your skating skills weren't up to snuff?
Probably not.
Really? You think so skating is much like, playing hockey? If you can't skate, you're really not going to have a chance, regardless of other skills that can make up for your lack of skating?
Yeah, I mean, unless you're like you're the fastest, like most graceful, like avoidant skater that's just like able to go around groups of people and never get touched. Maybe, but like it's pretty unlikely. So like the first things they teach you are like how to fall, and then with the group of people that you're with, you practice like hitting each other a lot, and you need to be able to stop very quickly. So that's the thing that I think gets people in trouble. So yeah, if you can stop yourself pretty well, like at speed, then you're good. But you got to build up the skill for that for sure.
Okay. And when you broke your ankle, was that during a match?
No, it was so silly. It was like I was just practicing and I had done this one move a million times, and then and they used to call me Gumby sometimes because like I would fall in weird ways and like just get back up and be like, I'm okay. And like there are multiple times they'd seen me like fall because it happens in practice, and they'd be like, that looked really bad, and I'd get up and it would be totally fine and there was really no problem. And this was one of those, except this was the one time where, like, I was just doing a turn and, like, and I just didn't get up. And then I was like, oh, no. And so, yeah, I mean, that definitely was a setback, but, and it required surgery. But after everything was said and done, they took some of the hardware out, like, after it healed, and they let me keep some of it. So.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's a very, like, derby girl thing is, like, if you have to have surgery and have to have hardware, like, it's kind of cool if they let you take home a screw. And they did.
And did you kind of, after that incident, did you kind of, I guess, reevaluate your, I wouldn't say dedication, but the, I guess, maybe risk reward of being involved in roller derby after that, after your injury?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, but it kind of seemed like the rest of the group was like, it's something that you kind of have to get out of the way. It's even like, I think a couple weeks before it happened, one of my teammates was like, it's not really if, it's when.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it's like, I got it out of the way and maybe it won't happen again. And also my parents are listening today. And so I wonder if they're like, no, Katie, no, like that's not what you're supposed to be thinking. No, I mean, it was really fun. It's just like when you like transfer locations, like right after healing from an injury, and it's kind of like you're meeting this whole new group of people because I didn't know anyone down here who played. I just know that they have a team that's like really well regarded in DC, the DC Roller Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was hard to get into, but it's still really fun to go out and skate. And in 2020, there was actually a protest in Baltimore that took place on, it was like a mobile, like by skate, bike, or like, yeah, skating and biking protest.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like something like a 2 or 3 mile route, like through Baltimore, on skates, like going 25 miles an hour down a hill, and didn't kill myself, so, or like even fall once. So I was like, I definitely want to go back one day. Like it's still really fun.
Yeah, sounds like I said.
Yeah.
There was a reality, I don't know if you ever saw the reality show that was on maybe a dozen years ago about roller derby. I think it was in Austin, Texas. It was based. It was just really great. They showed all the characters and kind of, a lot of, obviously everyone, I don't even know if they were making money, but everyone still had jobs. They were teachers and bartenders, and it just kind of showed their weekly life and kind of showed, what goes on with trials, playing in matches, kind of pettiness that exists in teams and, against other teams and stuff. It was just really fat. Like I said, I'm a big Giant fan, so that reality show was like the best for me because every week I was looking forward.
If you they have men's leagues too. If you ever wanted to get into
I can't
it.
skate.
Also,
I can't skate. So.
Oh, you can't skate.
I mean, I could skate to survive, but I can't. Yeah, it's like my swimming. It's like I can swim to avoid drowning, and I can escape to. Yeah, but I'm just a fan from the outside looking in.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's cool too because like it is a really interesting sport to watch too. Like I don't know that it's really caught on in like a huge way. I know like ESPN shows it.
Yeah.
But, like it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, in the 70s, in the late 60s, it was really popular. I remember it being, when I was super young, being on TV. It kind of had, there was like one famous woman, this redhead, she was older when everyone else was kind of younger. And she was like really popular, one of the most popular faces of like roller derby. So yeah, I do remember it kind of like having like waves of popularity in the past like 40 or 50 years.
Yeah, but in the 70s, definitely like a big thing. There was like oh, there's that movie in the 70s that I'm trying to think of the name of. I can't remember right now.
Rollerball?
No, but oh man, what a hilarious movie though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of well, and like we both know pinball, but that rollerball kind of reminds me of that machine Vector. Have you played that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just what a strange, funny movie that they came out with. It combines both like roller derby and like motorcycles and an actual ball instead of like just a person that is sort of like playing the ball.
Right. So you had to
Yeah.
stick the ball into the basket. That was like the goal.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some more songs. So I think we're gonna play Night Expo. Then after the song, we'll talk about your plant.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
Your plant business. So this is Night Expo by VOC. It was Night Expo by VOC. And we're back here talking with Katie. And so you also own so are you the founder, owner? What's your position with Root for You DC?
Yep. Founder, owner. As of now, it's all me. Root for You DC. Plant consultation and care, coming to people's houses and making house calls for sick plants, or teaching them how to take care of plants, or just even just doing the watering for people if they're out of town or just don't have the time, things like that.
So let's cover 3 mistakes the average person winds up making with house plants. If you had just 3 things that you find people continuously doing wrong, what would they be?
Getting the light wrong. I mean, the big 2 are basically like this kind of covers 2 of them, which is just light and water issues. People will select the plant for their house based on, they really like it, but maybe it's not necessarily right for the type of lighting they have. Like certain plants, if you bring them in and you put them in like, maybe you have an east-facing window, and also like, if you can't tell, the way to determine which is east and west facing is whichever light gets morning light that comes straight through. If it's lightest in the morning, that's your east, and then your west is the one that has bright light in the afternoon for like several hours during the day, and that's more intense and for longer periods. But that's one of the main things is people will be like, my plant, I brought it home. It sort of started slowly dying back. I don't know what the issue is, or like it used to be brighter green and now it's kind of like pale. And it's usually just because it's not producing enough chlorophyll because it's in the light that it's in is too low. So picking the right plant for the type of light that you're able to provide it. And then also watering. A lot of people will ask, like, how much water do I give it? And I think the thing that people are thinking is I'm going to say, like, a half a cup.
Right.
Like an exact kind of measurement. But I don't really recommend that. This is, like, my number one piece of advice, which is just pick a day during the week, check the plant, see if the soil's dry. And for most like indoor tropical plants, even the tropical like brings to mind humidity and maybe like really warm and kind of like wet conditions. A lot of those plants really do like to dry out in the soil in between waterings. And then when you do water, you want to saturate it all the way through, let it drain out of the bottom, and then discard that extra water before you put it back on the shelf. So that's like a big recommendation. The third one, I think I'm picking just because I like this mistake that people make, which is that they don't know what to do with the plant and they think something's wrong, but it's really just because it's so happy that it's grown out enormously and now they're like overwhelmed by it. And that's my favorite problem that people have because it's actually like like a happy problem. Like, oh, you're actually so good at nurturing at this that you maybe just need to like stake your monstera back or something.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I have a plant that's like that. It's not a palm tree, but kind of like a palm tree. And at one point, I was definitely underwatering it. Thought it was gonna die, but now it's just flowing. And so yeah, it's good to hear that it's flowing because it's happy, not because I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, and it's also like a lot of plants. Like people will think that they're dying or dead, and whenever I hear that or I see it, I'm like, I don't know. And then you check it out, and it's like, no, it can totally be like rehabilitated. It just needs something different. Like maybe it's kind of on the edge of dying, but if you just make some adjustments, like it can totally be brought back. And I always really like that challenge in gardening is like, what can we do to make sure this like not only doesn't die, but like thrives and is really happy?
And a lot of times, do you take people's plants home to your place and, nurture it for a little while, then bring them back?
I haven't done a lot of that. What I have done is, right now I did take some cuttings off of someone's cactus that had like a lot of little babies coming off of the side, and I'm going to propagate those. We're working on, they had one that was like, they had a cactus that had root rot below the soil. And so most recently one of my jobs was that I helped remove that one cactus, cut it back, so that the end can scar over, and then we can try to repropagate it. But all the little ones that are growing off, I was like, we have multiple if you want to keep some to try to grow them. And I'm going to see them again in a future appointment. And I said I can, take some too, and we'll just do some experimenting and see what we can get to grow. And they were like, oh, nope, just take all of them. And so now I do have someone's cactuses that I'm going to propagate for them. But I also, I have like all of my supplies are mobile. So I go to people's houses and I can usually do stuff like repotting, and then give them the tools to take care of it so that their plant will grow.
How long have you had this business?
Really only since October.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've been in plant care longer though. I've liked plants for a really long time, and I've kind of always had them. And then through the pandemic, I was like, I think the only thing I would really want to do for like another part-time job, which I thought about getting after working at home so much, was working at a garden center. And so there's this great spot, Ginkgo Gardens, that I've been a customer of long-term, started working with them part-time, and then after a while this idea just like clicked. And they're also really supportive too, and they'll like recommend customers to me that like they don't have someone from their business like under their name doing house calls, but they're like happy that I will do it, and they're glad that they can like refer people to me.
Oh, that's good. What type of business model, as far as, have you used like services or like a flat like rate, or kind of varies from client to client?
Usually it's a flat rate that's based on time. I can either talk to someone virtually, and I book in half-hour increments, so you can, book like a half hour to an hour, so like a couple of hours if you really want to. And we just sit and talk about plants, and then I always follow up those sessions with like notes and kind of instructions for what to do, and tell people like always, check back if you have questions. And then, but in the DC area, I can travel and actually like go to a person's house and kind of see what their environment is working with. And that way I'm able to diagnose their plant issues like firsthand rather than like at the garden center. We kind of do that, but without seeing it, there's a bit of a block. And so if you actually go to someone's house, then you can actually like, you get that, the air is really dry, or like maybe they have a vent over their plant that is the reason that all of the leaves are falling off or something like that. Or like you'll see how they dry out from week to week, like after watering or something. So yeah, there's virtual appointments, in person. And for those, I also bring all of my supplies. Like I've had people offer to like buy me a water can before I get there. And I'm like, no, I don't need that. Like we have all the stuff. And I just bring it to you. And then the other things that we add on are repots, like lots of repotting. Like I can source all kinds of materials to the store, especially like moss poles and pottery and things like that. But that's the only like add-on for services. And then one of the newer things that we can do is actually like drill holes into pots for people, because sometimes they'll buy them and they don't have a drainage hole. So that's kind of like the newer thing that I'm getting to do now.
Oh. Have you been pleasantly surprised by the success of the business, or did you kind of anticipate the level of business that you have now to be at this point?
I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. It's like, it's fun. And sometimes, if I'm really busy and maybe I don't want to spend the time, or I think everybody, like, sometimes they don't want to go into work, and even when it's your own business, sometimes you're like, maybe I'm a little tired, or maybe I want to do something else right now. But, like, the appointments are actually fun. Like, going to people's houses and talking about plants is, like, even if I'm doing it for work, I still really enjoy it. So there's that element. And then also there's a really good community of plant people here in the city. That there's so much to learn and there's so much to connect about. And so if you put your name out there with like the plant people, they're all really supportive and cool. And so through them and through Ginkgo, I've had a good deal of success right now. And I'm going to push a little bit more in the new year for promoting. But for the time being, it's been going really well.
And we had talked about music that you play for plants. Is there a particular, like that song Clouds, when I heard that, I was like, oh, this kind of sounds like a song that would be really good for plants to listen to. Do you have like suggestions for people as far as what types of music to play for plants?
That's funny. Music is such a big like conversation piece in the store. So there's like there's been studies, and like a Mythbuster episode they even did this. I don't know if you ever watched Mythbusters, where they did an episode where it's also kind of like a cool science project that people will do. We'll just say like, oh, if you play classical music for your plant, it's going to grow like, lush and beautiful. And if you play like metal or like hardcore, it's going to grow and it's going to look really ugly.
Right.
And so people have like tested this over and over. And I think what it actually just comes down to is like possibly the vibrations of like having music, maybe just encourages plant growth. I know like on the Mythbuster episodes when they tested it, they were like, there was really kind of no difference between the plants growing, except for the ones that did not have any music, like their control didn't grow as much. I think they're growing like sugar snap peas or something. Yeah, so I think just music generally is good for plants. There's stuff that I personally don't like that I imagine like plants hate listening to as much as I do. Like there's only like sometimes like if I hear like a yacht rock song come on in the store, I'm like, I cannot do this. And I'm like, the plants probably agree. And there's like hundreds of them. So we need to change this. That way we make sure they're okay.
Plants are like, no yacht rock.
No yacht rock in here. We play at the store. It's getting a little old. We need to find new music to listen to, but we've been listening to a lot of soccer mommy radio.
What's that?
She's like kind of a like pop sort of singer, songwriter, indie person. I do really like her stuff, but it's also just kind of like a nice melody for getting into the flow of the workday there. But here, I also, like, when I'm taking care of my own plants at home, I listen to a lot of podcasts, too.
Mhm.
And I feel like I just have this idea that, like, just having sort of, like, any audio vibration around is good for plants. There's also, there is a place in the city that it's called, like, Sad Lab or something, and they'll take plants to rehabilitate, and they'll literally, like, play gongs for the plant.
Wow.
Yeah, because they think that, like, that vibration therapy is, like, good for them.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I haven't seen, like, scientific studies proving that, but I don't know. I always feel like a little bit of audio for them is good.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, often when I play my guitar, it's kind of in the same room where that plant I have that's blossoming. So maybe me playing the guitar has contributed to that plant getting a little bit bigger and a little bit fuller and a little bit happier, I hope.
Yeah, you can totally take credit for that. That's all you.
And what's your plant that someone gets, you're like, oh, you shouldn't have got that plant. It's going to be a pain.
None of them. I love all the plants.
Oh, you love them all? You love them all equally?
Pretty much. I'm trying to think if they're anywhere. I'm just like, why?
Well, that are just harder than people, I guess harder to maintain.
There's one called a Mickey Mouse cactus, which is like, it's a cactus, which is really hard to, it's like a cactus that needs a lot of light. And so it's really hard to maintain the amount of light that it needs in order from getting it, like, to grow out and be really long and, like, stretching towards the sun. And then not only that, it's covered in, like, these little clusters of, like, just micro needles all over it. And so it's like you can't, like, look at the thing without getting, like, little cactus needles in your hand. So that's one. I mean, I think they look cute and they're kind of cool, but I'm like, no. Poinsettias are really popular around Christmas, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know. They just don't appeal to me. And plus, also, I have pets, and they're really toxic, so
okay.
They're not great to have around for that, yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. They're just sort of, yeah, and I guess also because they have such a holiday look, I like to just kind of have, like, a standard, like, tropical, like, regular green look to my plants that don't necessarily, like, represent a certain holiday or anything. And so, yeah, maybe poinsettias and Mickey Mouse here cactus. Not my thing.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Katie. This was great. So if people want to contact Root for Your DC, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You can book online with us at Root for You, all spelled out with letters, rootforyoudc.com. We're also on Instagram, so you can see kind of like some of the projects that we're up to at Root for You DC. And just today we unveiled a new logo by Brian Liu that goes by Toolbox DC that I'm thrilled about. So at least go and check that out.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Katie, and I'm sure I'll see you at Lyman's at some point in the future.
Yeah, be seeing you.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right. That was Katie from Root